Right, some time ago I said that I'll be showing some of the tools that I use on my Chinese Mini Lathe and my Myford ML7, and today I've got this set of boring bars and this 2mm grooving tool. The boring bars are 3/8 diameter, 9-piece set, and they're brazed on carbide tip onto tool steel, and I obtained these from Banggood in China. This set here costs under £13, which is excellent value for money, and if you buy a set like this, it saves all the bother of having to braze up your own tools. So there are various lengths. The smallest one has a usable length of about 17mm, and the longest one has a usable length of about 55mm, and the like I say, carbide tips brazed on the end there. You can see a good witness of braze all the way around, and they're brazed onto this tool steel which has been excellently machined, and the bare steel at this end is coated in plastic when you get them new. And they're great for use on all different types of material, including hardened stainless steel. Now, many people that are new to precision engineering or lathe work make the mistake of buying a set like this and thinking that they can be used straight from the box. Well, this is not so. But don't be put off, because they only need a minor bit of adjustment to get them working perfectly. In a factory environment, these would have come from the brazing section and then would have gone on to the tool room, where they would have been precision ground to the correct angles for whatever job they're going to be used on. So basically all that needs to be done to them is the angles increased on the cutting edges to give more clearance, and it's very easily done. All you need is a green grit wheel which is specifically designed to actually grind carbide, plus a diamond lapping wheel which you can actually get a nice finish on the actual ground surfaces. Give it a nice mirror finish, and in one of my other videos I show how to make one of those lapping tables with a bought diamond wheel which you can actually use on the lathe. So like I said, it's very easy to grind them up. If you look at the tool head on, this is the front end here, all you need to do is increase the angle on this edge here, and then looking at the tool in this view, the front end, increase the angle on the front edge of the tool a bit. And I've drawn a couple of diagrams up just to show you what I actually mean. So on my diagram here, the green circle represents the bore to be machined, and this is looking at the front face of the tool, like this again, and this is the not ground one, the tool in its bought state, and this is the tool when it's ground. And on this one, this is what happens if you don't grind the tool. The tool on the lower half of the carbide tip, the pink part is the, or the fully pink part is the carbide tip. You'll find that this tool will rub on this edge all the way down here. This is the ground one with a little bit more angle, not too much angle, otherwise there will be a tendency for the carbide tip to break or chip off at the end, just enough to give clearance on the lower side of the actual carbide tip and the bore. And this one here is again looking at the tool in this perspective. The front of the tool has been ground back at a steeper angle. So that's all there is basically to grinding these up correctly, apart from just putting a small radius on the corner, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So when it comes to grinding these up, you can actually hold the longer ones by hand and do it on the grinding wheel, but with the shorter ones they're a bit difficult to hold, so you can either put them in the tool holder and grind them, or make a special tool up, and I'd rather make a special tool up to hold them, especially with the short ones, because there's a danger of actually catching your tool holder on the grinding wheel. So what I get is a solid piece of aluminium, knurl it at one end, drill out for the 3/8 shaft of the tool, and then I've got two 2BA Allen bolts, which just tighten onto the shank of the tool and lock those up. And I leave those Allen bolts long as well, because that gives greater holding on the tool, and it makes it much easier to actually grind these up by hand like this. So this is my grinder with the ordinary wheel this side, and I use that wheel to first remove a bit of the tool steel, and then go on to the green grit wheel for the actual carbide. And that's about it. Now for the lapping of the tool, I use one of these lapping wheels here that you can get on eBay. You can get them very cheap from China, and you just make a spigot up on the end there that will fit into the jaws of the lathe. And in one of my other videos I show where I made a table that can actually go on the tool post, and you can do various different angles. I don't tend to use that much nowadays, as I do everything freehand. And it's basically just running the tool on the edge of that, or on the face of that diamond lap, at the correct angle that you ground on the green grit wheel, and just get a nice mirror finish. And if you make one of these tools up here, you can actually set these at a right angle, so it's when the tool's in there, the carbide tip is parallel with those two bolts, to give yourself a bit of a sight on the angle that you're holding it at. And you can spray a bit of WD-40 or put a bit of paraffin on there if you want, and just touch the tool on. Holding it at the correct angle, and just get a nice mirror finish on that cutting edge. and the same with the front edge. And that one's done. And then I just use a coarse diamond lap like this one, or a small one, hold the tool at the correct angle and just put a radius on that one. It must follow the angle that's on there. You can actually hold the tool in the vise to do this, or actually put it in the tool holder and do it on the lathe, but it's just very important to hold this at the angle of the actual tool that is ground, so you're going round like that. And I've just put a very small radius on that one for now. So just to be clear on that, I've put the tool into the tool holder so you can actually see the end there better. So when you're doing the lapping, you must actually follow the angle round the tool. You mustn't tilt it up like that, or else it'll cause a land there and it won't actually cut properly. It must follow the angle that's on the end there, like that. And that's what the tool looks like when it's correctly ground. So I've set the tool post on centre height. You can see the tool in the holder there, that I've tilted the boring bar very slightly forward like that, and I've just removed a bit of the underside of the tool steel. This is a 12mm hole that I've drilled, and now I'm going to show you it actually boring. And that one's cutting lovely there on the 316 stainless steel. And you can see there, that's a really nice finish. So it's a great boring bar set to have, and like I say, you can use them on all different types of material. And when they get a little bit blunt, you can actually just give them a lick over on the lapping wheel to bring them up nice and sharp again. Plus you can choose the size of radius that you want on the end there. And if you're new to engineering, having a set like this teaches you very quickly actually how to grind tools properly. Plus, like I've demonstrated here, you don't need a lot of specialist equipment to actually grind these tools up properly and lap them. So now I come to the grooving tool that I got from Banggood, and it's a 12mm shank tool. It takes 2mm wide inserts. It's MGEHR1212-2, and it comes with the Allen key and 4 inserts. The inserts are, like I say, 2mm wide. They're specially shaped with a groove on the top and the lower side of the actual insert, and they slide nicely into the tool and is held very positively, and you just lock the one Allen bolt up to hold the tip very securely. The tool was only £9.59 from Banggood. Very good value for money. I've used a lot of these types of groove tools when I was in the aerospace industry, for CNC lathe tools and also for tooling on the manual center lathes, and this is just as good as any of the tools that I've used in the factory. And like I say, the tool comes with 4 inserts. The inserts have cutting edge at both ends, so you have 8 edges, and they're readily available and very cheap to buy from Banggood as well. Well, I have the same piece of 316 stainless steel in the Chinese Mini Lathe. I've set the tool on center height. The stainless steel here is 1 inch in diameter, and it's about the largest diameter you can actually use with this tool on the Mini Lathe, because the tool post doesn't go far back enough, and the tool cannot be ground away in any part to actually move it further back into the tool holder. So whenever I do an O-ring groove on the lathe, or any other groove on the lathe, I try to use a live center in the bore or a drilled hole to make it much more rigid, or failing that, I try to machine closer to the jaws, and this will save any chatter. And I've put my mini lathe into the low gear range and just use a bit of cutting oil. And I've got the revs on about 250 RPM. And you can see there that the tool is cutting lovely, and it's chip breaking the swarf brilliantly. And often with O-ring grooves or whatever, sometimes you have to make a wider groove. You can actually use the same tool, just unlock the saddle, and move the tool over a bit. and just go down to touch the diameter that you've already cut. So you can see I've done a lovely deep groove there. The tool cut beautifully, the swarf was chipped nicely, and it's a good finish. So it's a great tool to have, and one that I'll be using a lot in the future. And when you do grooves on the lathe like this, if you want to, before you take the component out, take the tool off the tool post, start the lathe up, and just touch a file on either corner on the diameter just to take the burr off and put a very small radius on it. And if you want to, you can actually polish the groove at the same time. So I'm very pleased with all those tools I've got from Banggood. Very good quality and well worth the money. And I'll put the links below to these actual tools. Thanks for watching and see you next time.